Hi everyone, my name is Thomas Bolero. I will be presenting the first half of Part B, our entry plan, and the next several slides will be discussing our strategies and ideas for entering the new market. This will include different areas of discussion, our choices, and then our rationales for these choices. So, an overview of our entry strategy: we believe the best course of action is to start slow in cities where Trader Joe's has higher brand recognition. This includes cities near the border of the United States, such as Toronto, Ontario, Calgary, and Alberta. Then, after initial success in these cities, we'll slowly branch out into other cities, just like how Trader Joe's expanded in the United States, starting in Pasadena, California, then branching out into other cities in California, and slowly making their way up all the way to New York. We believe that we believe the best mode for entry is franchising. The advantages of franchising would be that there's a better understanding of local culture from the franchisee, mainly because they're from Canada. They'll be from Canada. They'll probably be living in Canada for a long time. They'll just understand what Canadians want from Trader Joe's. There will also be less direct risk since we won't be directly owning the store. Anything bad happens would be on the franchisee, not on us. We could also repeat successful strategies from the US. It won't be a completely brand new store. It will still be Trader Joe's, and we could teach them different marketing ideas that we've had that worked in America that might work in Canada. There's also less direct management needed. Since the store will be ran by the franchisee, we won't have to worry about hiring or firing anybody. The disadvantages, however, is there is less control. We won't have we won't be able to hire or fire anybody, and we won't be able to directly control how they're selling it or how they're marketing it. We can only really give suggestions. There is also more risk for conflict, both in decision makings and legal. One, we could disagree on how we should market to Canadians, and two, if something bad does happen or if there's a breach of contract, there it could be a risk for a lawsuit, either from us or to us. This would also be a completely new strategy for Trader Joe's, as they don't typically use franchising as a way of branching out. However, this could also be a benefit because it's a new experience, especially when entering a new uh, country. We could see this as experience for entering other countries in the future, such as the UK or other European countries. A few locations for entry. These we believe these are the best places to enter, mainly because most of these are major cities or growing cities, and a good chunk or three out of four of these are very close to the border. Uh, we will go over each one of them one by one and talk about advantages and disadvantages. Starting with Toronto and Ontario. Toronto is very close to New York, so there are several Trader Joe's already in New York. So the supply chain wouldn't be much of a difference. It would just add a little bit of distance and would require crossing the border, which shouldn't be too much. It's also very close to Niagara Falls, a major tourist destination for both Canadians and Americans. And since it's a major tourist destination for Americans as well, they might not be familiar with the other stores and might want to see a store from home, such as Trader Joe's. Disadvantages, the major disadvantage for this one though is it is one of the largest cities and central hubs in Canada, meaning the competition there would be extremely fierce and would be hard to make us stand out as Trader Joe's. The next city we thought of was Calgary. It is one of the fastest growing cities in Canada, making it a prime place to open up a store right now as it's still growing. It's also within a 5 hour drive of the United States, making it closer to America, meaning the supply chain, again, wouldn't be too much of an issue. Another major disadvantage is there are tons of local businesses in Calgary, indicating that the the culture there might focus on community growth, which could make it harder for chain businesses to open there, as they'll be more persuaded to buy from local businesses. The next city we thought of was Vancouver. It is also another one of the fastest growing cities in Canada, and it has one of the largest immigrant populations in Canada. And according to certain studies, immigrants tend to like to buy from chains instead of local businesses just because it's more familiar and it's more trustworthy to buy from chains, which is better than Calgary. However, a disadvantage for Vancouver is that it's much, much further away from the border, meaning that supply chain costs getting our products to them to sell would be much higher than any other city to enter from. The last city we thought of was Winnipeg. It is one of the largest uh, border crossing areas in North America, making supply chain costs more extremely cheap compared because there'd be more people crossing over. It's probably cheaper to cross over right there, especially since it's right on the border. It's only really a cost to get it over the border. Because it's so close to the border, there are many Americans living there and or working there, meaning that brand recognition would be even less of an issue here. And many of those Americans might want to buy from a more familiar chain, such as Trader Joe's. The major disadvantage here is that there are tons of local businesses again, and it would be even more competitive, such very similar to Calgary. Um, our next slide would be our marketing and branding strategy. Uh, there would be three different steps depending on how far in. So, for example, step one would be the beginning. Step three would be much further along down the line. So step one would be since there's already a good amount of brand recognition, we would be focusing our marketing strategy to the fact that we're finally in Canada and that after much anticipated waiting, after much anticipation and patience, we're finally in Canada. Then in step two, after we find solid ground and even recognition from Canadians that might not already recognize the brand, we would focus on making sure the target audience also knows our products are ethically sourced since there's also a high demand for those types of goods in Canada. Then our final step, finally, once we establish that Canadians know of our brand, we would make our marketing and branding strategies extremely similar to that of American strategies since we know those are tried and true to help businesses grow for Trader Joe's.